Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Sorry for that brief interruption. My name is Kyle Stevens. I'm the chairman of the Board of Water Resources. We welcome those that are meeting with us in person and those that are meeting with us virtually and online. We'd like to go through some brief introductions. I'll just mention before we do that, this is our third session today, so we've done this 3 times. We still haven't got it right, apparently. But we'll have introductions from our board members, and then we will ask Director Hasenjager to introduce the staff that are present, and we'll go to that point.
Randy Crozier.
Jim Lemon.
Norman Johnson.
Wayne Anderson.
Blaine Ibsen.
Charles Holmgren, Bear River Basin.
Juliette TENNERT online representing Salt Lake County and Salt Lake and Tooele.
Thank you. Candace, if you'll go ahead and introduce staff.
Great, thank you. With us today, we have Joel Williams, Shalane DeBernardi, Marisa Egbert, Tom Cox, Russell Hadley, Jacqueline Pacheco, Ben Merritt, Grant Doty, Ani Baynard, Stephen Gregerson, Randy Staker, Wendy Crother, Jack Heinzman, Lania Pham, and Shannon Clow are both helping us take minutes. And then Paul Gedge and Carmen McDonald are working on the AV in the back. So thanks to them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those introductions. You may ask why we're doing that. Part of the public meeting requirements are that we have a record of who is in attendance. And there's those that are here for project sponsorship. We'll read those names in just a minute or two. The format for our meeting today is taking a little bit different twist from the standpoint of we are considering the approval for 70 plus applications. And so the staff have divided the meeting up today into 3 sections to where we can accommodate consideration of that many applications, which is a little bit of an anomaly. But given the fact that we are addressing the secondary meter grant applications today, it's necessitated that we set the meeting format up in this manner. And so we will proceed accordingly. We've already of the different river basins that are represented by membership on the board. We've already considered 5 of those, and we'll consider the other 3 that are left. And so those of you that are here are representatives from those areas. And so with that, we will have Candace go ahead and read into the record those that are participating with us in person and virtually. And then we will turn time to the staff to begin the process of reviewing the applications.
Great, thank you. And I am going to do these in order of which the river districts that we are going to cover. So first we're going to cover the Lower Colorado, which attending virtually with us, we have from Kanab Irrigation Company, Norris Brown, Springdale Conservation Irrigation Company, Stuart Ferber, Leeds Water Company, Riley Vane, and maybe someone else might be joining them. I'm not sure. And then Hurricane, we have Mayor Billings present or virtually with us for the Lower Colorado. And the rest of you, I'll introduce you as we get to your project areas.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead and proceed with Shalane. Is it your turn this time?
No. Did you want that statement again?
Yes, we should read that in for the benefit of those that are participating for the first time. Yes.
All right. For the 3rd time for you, let's cover this. And I think the audio issue had to come because we've just been moving too smoothly today. So Utah is one of the driest states in the nation, one of the fastest growing, and drinking water sources are limited. In addition, potential climate change impacts and the current multi-year drought in Utah threaten water supplies and put public drinking water supplies at risk. Municipalities and water companies need to reduce their water use to stretch their existing drinking water supplies. Many Utah communities also have secondary water, typically used to irrigate lawns and gardens. Secondary water is not treated to culinary standards and is utilized throughout the state to protect the drinking water supplies. However, many users waste this precious resource because they do not realize how much they are using. Technology has improved over the last decade and allows for the metering of untreated secondary water. Individual water use cannot be measured without metering, so water suppliers have begun installing meters on their secondary water connections. By educating their customers on their measured use compared to the amount they should be using, suppliers have seen as much as 20 to 30% reduction in use. Secondary metering, combined with conservation and education, protects the drinking water supplies and allows drinking water providers to plan for their future growth. House Bill 242 from the Utah Legislature states that a secondary water supplier shall install and maintain a meter of the use of pressurized secondary water by each user receiving secondary water service from that supplier by January 1st of 2030. The legislature provided $250 million in federal ARPA funds to the Board of Water Resources to help providers meet that requirement. The board may issue grants up to 70% of the project cost, but grants are limited to $5 million for providers with 7,000 secondary connections or less, and $10 million for providers with more than 7,000 connections. These ARPA funds must be contracted by the end of 2024 and spent by the end of 2026. If the board provides grant funds for a project, the secondary water supplier must submit or update a water conservation plan for its service area and obtain approval of that plan from the Division of Water Resources staff. In addition, meters purchased with grant money shall allow for data communication between the meter and other devices designed to manage use of secondary water. And the secondary water supplier must agree to provide an educational component to each end user, either in a monthly water use statement or a customer-specific internet portal. This educational component must promote water conservation and provide information on the customer's secondary water usage. In addition, right now, before we jump into this third session, since we had a little time before we did a little review of some of the information, and I found a couple errors in your board book, number 2 in the reports. So I just wanted to note those now. We do have staff recommendations correct, and your recommended motions are accurate in front of you as well. But just to note, in the Salt Lake and Tooele section of your packet, so the very last one that we'll address today, Browns Meadow Irrigation Association, the report states that the grant is for authorization only today, and that is incorrect. We would like you to consider authorization and committal of those grant funds. And the other is Settlement Canyon. So in the same section, Settlement Canyon, the total cost estimate at the top of the page on the front page is correct at $700,000, but then we have the table is wrong, and so in the report the numbers are wrong. Instead of a grant of $476,000, it should be $490,000 is what we will be recommending that you authorize and commit today. So just wanted you to make those notes. So when we got to that point, there's hopefully no more confusion. Okay, thank you.
Juliette, this is in your area. Did you make note of those and have those corrections?
Yes, I do. I think
Okay.
that if I'm right, I have them updated all on the updated motion sheet. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, as I mentioned, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Well, as I mentioned, in normal situations, normal board meeting, we would consider each application one by one.
Right.
But because we are the number of applications that we are considering today, which by the time we are through will be 70 plus. And so we are considering these in a group at the end of the presentations for each individual application. There will be time for motion and also a time for public comment if there is any. And so that just kind of lays the groundwork for how we'll proceed ahead.
Okay, and all I wanted to note is the Lower Colorado, and then the next section, the Upper Colorado, will be presented by Grant today. So
Thank
fitting
you.
name for today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. No one's asleep yet, so that's pretty good. Jim, you might not need your sleeping bag, so we're on a good track today. Great. So first applicant. Kanab Irrigation Company is planning to install 290 meters at a total cost of $636,000. They expect to conserve approximately 100 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost, up to $445,000, as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends that the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost, up to $162,000, and that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $11,700. Springdale Consolidated Irrigation Company is planning to install 104 meters at a total cost of $640,000. They expect to conserve approximately 50 acre feet. Staff recommends that the board authorize and commit 65.2% of the project cost, up to $417,000, as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 29.7% of the project cost, up to $190,000, and that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $13,800. Leeds Water Company is planning to install 150 meters at a total cost of $520,000. They expect to conserve approximately 55 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost, up to $364,000, as a secondary meter grant. Hurricane City is planning to install 1,460 secondary meters at a total cost of $2,810,000. They expect to conserve approximately 400 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost, $1,967,000, as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 25% of the project cost, up to $703,000, as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $55,000, including reserves. That is the staff's report.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Appreciate your involvement in helping to bring these forward. There were a couple of people that were omitted from being recognized as being present either in person or online. So let Candace go ahead and do that.
Yeah, virtually with Riley Vane is Ron Whitner, a board member for Leeds. And then with Mayor Billings from Hurricane City is Ken Richens, Paige Chapman, and Jake Heward. Just want to make sure we recognized all of you guys. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. As I indicated previously, under normal circumstances, we would invite individuals to come forward. Well, let me back up. Let me first of all just indicate that part of the public process is we requested any online public comments, and there were no online public comments. And so the next would be, given the fact that the projects have been introduced and the motions, the staff recommendations have been made, is there anyone present or online that would like to address anything? Okay, seeing none, then we will turn to the representative from the Lower Colorado area, Jim Lemon, for some motions.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the board authorize and commit secondary meter grants for Kanab Irrigation Company, Springdale Consolidated Irrigation Company, Leeds Water Company, and Hurricane City according to the staff's recommendations.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion regarding the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by the same sign? Thank you. And as also, we just recognize that Juliette voted in the affirmative as well. So we'll rule that that motion passes and move to the next motion.
I move that the board authorize secondary meter loans for Kanab Irrigation Company, Springdale Consolidated Irrigation Company, and Hurricane City according to the staff's recommendations.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Blaine Ibsen. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by the same sign? Well, rule that that motion carries and indicate that Juliette voted in the affirmative as well. Are there any other motions? Okay. Well, that concludes that particular section then. And for those four entities, thank you for your applications and continue to work with the staff to move the process forward. And good luck with getting the meters installed. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the next item, and that is, we're going to do Upper Colorado area next, and that is Norm Johnson's area. And Grant, are you making those?
Yep, and I'll just quickly
Oh,
announce
excuse
the
me.
representatives
Yes,
that are
thank you.
here. From Castle Valley Special Service District, we have Jacob Sharp and Brad Gills online. And then from Wellington, we have Bethany Paria.
Okay, thank you. We'll turn time to Grant to make the presentations then.
Okay. Castle Valley Special Service District is planning to install 2,905 secondary meters at a total cost of $8,820,000. They expect to conserve approximately 900 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 56.7% of the project cost, up to $5 million, as a secondary meter grant. Wellington City is planning to install 810 secondary meters at a total cost of $1,897,000. They expect to conserve approximately 150 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost, up to $1,328,000, as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost, up to $484,000, as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $38,000, including reserves. That is the staff's report.
Okay, thank you. I think we still had the previous.
Sorry about
Okay, there we go. So those are the two projects from the Upper Colorado River area. Again, there were no online comments. And is there anyone from the public, meaning those that are either in person or online, want to address the group? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and look to you, Norm, for a set of motions.
Okay. I move that the board authorize and commit secondary metering grants for Castle Valley Special Service District and Wellington City, according to staff's recommendations.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve those two applications. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by the same sign? We'll rule that that motion carries. And thank you, Juliette. Even though your response is delayed, when it gets to us, we're recognizing it. So thank you. Again, rule that that motion carries. So Norm, next motion.
I move that the board authorize the secondary meter loan for Wellington City, according to staff's recommendation.
Is there a second? Second by Jim Lemon. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by the same sign? Again, rule that that motion carries. And Juliette voted in the affirmative. Okay, that takes care of the Upper Colorado area. So the last one to consider today is the Salt Lake and Tooele areas. And we'll let Candace go ahead and read in the names of the participants that are here in person and virtually.
Great, thank you. So in person with us today from Browns Meadow Irrigation Company, we have Wesley Huntsman and Dan Woodbury. With South Despain Ditch Company, we have Michael Galletti and Jeffrey Giddens. With North Dry Creek Irrigation Company, we have Vaughn Cox. With Settlement Canyon Irrigation Company, we have Robert Clegg. With Draper Irrigation Company, we have Steve Cunningham. With Richards Irrigation Company, we have Howard Norton, Michael T., and Richard White. And with Country Classic Estates HOA, we have Curtis McCarthy. And virtually in attendance with us, with Riverton City, we have Kevin Hicks. And then with Bluffdale City, we have Natalie Hall, who's the mayor. Michael Biozzi is the city engineer.
And Ani gets to take this one for you. So
Okay, Ani, thank you.
Thanks. The rookie is finally up to bat. So good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'll just get right to it. I might need my glasses, but the first applicant is Browns Meadow Irrigation Association. They are planning to install 140 meters at a total cost of $270,000. They expect to conserve approximately 417 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $189,000 as a secondary meter grant. The second applicant is South Despain Ditch Company. They are planning to install 300 meters at a total cost of $494,000. They expect to conserve approximately 90 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $345,800 as a secondary meter grant. North Dry Creek Irrigation Company is planning to install 101 meters at a total cost of $241,000. They expect to conserve approximately 95 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $168,700 as a secondary meter grant. Riverton City is planning to install 6,738 meters at a total cost of $12,580,000. They expect to conserve approximately 2,510 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $8,806,000 as a secondary meter grant. Settlement Canyon Irrigation Company is planning to install 300 meters at a total cost of $700,000. They expect to conserve an unknown amount of water. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $490,000 as a secondary meter grant. Draper Irrigation is
One
planning.
second. And that last one, that's not what we
Settlement.
have in our,
That's what Shalane spoke.
Oh, that was the correction.
correction,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
So moving on, the Draper Irrigation Company is planning to install 242 meters at a total cost of $793,000. They expect to conserve approximately 228 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $555,000 as a secondary meter grant. Richards Irrigation Company is planning to install 370 meters at a total cost of $568,000. They expect to conserve approximately 620 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $398,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $145,000 and that the project be purchased at 1% over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $10,500. The city of Bluffdale is planning to install 687 meters at a total cost of $1,518,000. They expect to conserve 600 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $1,063,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $387,000 as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $30,000, including reserves. And finally, Country Classic Estates HOA is planning to install 42 meters at a total cost of $50,000. They expect to conserve approximately 13 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $35,000. That one's just optimization. Oh, okay. I have that wrong. Board will authorize 70% of the project cost up to $35,000 as a secondary meter grant. That is staff's report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Back to, if I can find my place. So again, we'll make a comment. It's been reported to us in earlier meetings that there were no online public comments made. Or is there anyone present that would like to make a comment?
Curtis McCarthy for Country Classic Estates. We have decided to pull our grant for a couple of reasons. One, we get our water through pretty silty, dirty water. And we're trying to decide what kind of meters to use. We've looked at nylon, polypropylene, cast iron, and we're testing them right now. And also we want to know what kind of filtration we need. And the third thing is the way to communicate how much we use. So we're withdrawing our application at the time.
Okay.
Thanks.
This staff.
That's Country Classic Estates.
Okay, the last one that was considered. Okay. So Juliette, then you'll make note of that as far as
Yes.
motions are concerned.
Yes.
Okay, are there any other comments to come from the public? If not, we'll go ahead and turn the time to you, Juliette, for motions.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I move that the board authorize and commit secondary meter grants for Browns Meadow Irrigation Association, South Despain Ditch Company, the North Dry Creek Irrigation Company, Riverton City, Settlement Canyon Irrigation Company, Draper Irrigation Company, Richards Irrigation Company, and the City of Bluffdale, according to staff's recommendations.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Second by Wayne Anderson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call for the question. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by the same sign? We'll rule that motion carries and also acknowledge that Juliette voted in the affirmative. Okay, next motion.
All right, Mr. Chair, this is my next motion. This is my last motion for these projects. I move that the board authorize secondary meter loans for Richards Irrigation Company and the city of Bluffdale according to staff's recommendations.
You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded by Jim Lemon. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? By the same sign. Okay, we'll rule that motion carries and acknowledge Juliette's voting in the affirmative. I think that concludes. We don't have any fireworks or anything to go off. To acknowledge that we have, again, for those of you that are in attendance, this is somewhat of a historic time and board meeting to consider this number of applications in one day. Would like to acknowledge the fact that division staff have spent unnumbered hours over the last.
Oh, they're numbered. They're numbered.
Well, okay, then, maybe there's some that they haven't numbered, but anyway, they've spent a lot of time in working with you individually to help, ferret out some of the questions, concerns, and to put together a final report that is able to come before the board and to be considered for approval. And so we acknowledge the time and effort that they have put in, and acknowledge the time and effort that you as project sponsors have put in as well. And now, as the funding process continues to move forward, will be incumbent upon all of us to work together to see that we get this money put to good use, which it will be. And we'll have some discussion here at towards the end of our meeting about, as I mentioned, this 70 plus applications totaling probably somewhere around $190 million of the $250 million that was available. And so a lot of work and effort has gone in on the part of a number of people, and we acknowledge that. So thank you, and thank you to the board members for your diligence in reviewing the applications and bringing them to this point. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for being here today and being ready to take as long as this took. And I'm glad to say it didn't take as long as some of us thought it might. But before I finish, before I let you leave, I would like Candace. I mean, I know there's probably a few other items to hit on, but I would like Candace to give you a summary of what you've done today with this.
Okay, well, that concludes this part of the board meeting, the secondary meter reports. We've addressed all of the applications that have been approved and brought forward to this point. So the next part of the agenda is to turn to the director for the director's report. And we'll let Candace go ahead and do that now.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We've already said it. It's a historic day, and just to kind of maybe not make you think I'm going to take the next 45 minutes, I really just truncated my director's report to kind of the very bare bones, because I figured after a long day you're going to be tired and ready to go home. But I did want to kind of take note of what has been done today. So before the board today, a total of $285 million has come. And I want to highlight that number because it's not, I mean, while the grant portion is significant at $190 million, and the board loans that were applied for and authorized are about $50 million. There are some federal funds, Water Smart grants, and Water Conservancy District loans that came in there over $5 million. And then the local cost share at $39 million. And I think that part is really important to recognize as well, because this is taking everybody to do and to get past. And I know that is a lot for the locals to take on. The grants help significantly, but we want to recognize the effort that they're putting in And I'm just super impressed with how they jumped in and got their applications in such a tight time. So just want to recognize all of that. So with that total, we ended up, and I quickly took out country estates, but we're about 114,218 meters are estimated to be installed with this amount of funds. The estimated conservation savings is about 54,000 acre feet. So just kind of a frame of reference, East Canyon is about 51 or so. So it's roughly the size of East Canyon or Sand Hollow. So that's a significant water savings. And really what it is about using our current supplies as wisely as possible, especially as we're going into, or we've been in these really dry periods. 8 of the last 10 years, we've been in drought, and really just help us be more resilient into the future. So that I really wanted to highlight that. While the staff and all the work that has been done, we know that work's not done completed yet. There's a lot of efforts that still need to take place. And then I'll say the real work of getting the meters in the ground will need to take place too. So it's just a historic day and super exciting that, we were able to get this appropriation and work as quickly as possible to get it into the hands of the locals so they can start using the money. The other thing I just wanted to note is, this is our 75th anniversary year and for the Board of Water Resources. And what a way to celebrate it by getting $250 million appropriated and being able to do good work. So over the last 75 years, I had a statistic that was, 1,520 projects have been funded. And now we can check off a couple more, or, another 72 or so that came before the board today. So I just want to thank the board and thank all of my staff and all the work that went into making this board meeting possible and really streamlining it as much as possible. So rather than being here for 3 days, we were able to accomplish it in a day. So that's all I wanted to say, and thank the project applicants for being here, and all the work that you guys have put into it at this point as well.
Thank you, Candace. Again, we appreciate the hard work and efforts of staff. And thank you, board members, for your time and effort as well. So the next item on the agenda is a motion to adjourn. So I'll use the gavel then and declare that the meeting is adjourned, and thank you and safe travels back to your homes.